Another booming year that hoisted the S&P 500 to its second consecutive annual gain, exceeding 20% as well, spurred by enthusiasm for rate cuts, economic strength and artificial intelligence. Then when you take a look at the broad market index, that closed about 0.4% lower, while when you take a look at the Nasdaq composite as well, you're looking at a dip of just about 0.9% on 2024's final day of trading as well. When you take a look at Dow Jones as well, just shy of that 0.1% decline, 29-point downtake is what you're looking at least when it comes to that index. When you take a look at the S&P 500 as well, that is the one that surged 23.3% in 2024, building on a gain of 24.2% from last year. So you did see quite some strength coming in there. When you talk about the S&P 500, even when you take a look at the Dow, that's the one that added 12.8% as well. So that's largely the handover that you're looking at on a year-to-date basis for 2024 for the Dow as well. And Nasdaq is the one amongst this entire pack that has outperformed with a gain of 28.6%. Now, in all of this, you do have AI chip darling Nvidia as well as iPhone giant Apple, members of the so-called Magnificent Seven as well, and they're the ones that rose 171% and 30% respectively, notched new highs of their own in 2024. So these are the ones that you should really be marking in terms of the ones that have really eked out gains. And speaking of outperformers, speaking of a strong year, the S&P 500 did have a little more in terms of the list that we have for the stocks that are there to thank for this certain outperformance that we've seen. Now, when you take a look at the Palantir, that's one stock to mark because 350% uptick is what you saw coming in for that particular counter. Vistra as well, 262% uptick coming in. Nvidia, like I've said, 177% uptick coming in there. And despite the strong year-to-date performance, you do have Wall Street that has struggled in December's final days, with investors taking some profits, with the biggest winners, the ones that I've marked out as well. And investors were hoping for a Santa Claus rally, not something that has happened. But it is something that happens during each of the 5 final trading days of a calendar year and the first 2 trading days of January. So let's see how that pans out. But it doesn't look like Santa will be visiting town, at least when it comes to Wall Street then. But with that, let's get you a quick check going on what 2024 then was like for the Asian markets. And amongst the pack, you do have China's CSI 300 that had gains to the tune of about 15% coming in. Australia as well, 8.5%, 8.5% gains coming in there as well. And when you take a look at Taiwan, 29% is the kind of uptick that you're seeing coming in for that index as well. And Hong Kong, 18% lastly, is the kind of uptick that you're seeing there as well. Important to mark the markets that are shut today on account of New Year's, and you do have Japan, Australia, China, Hong Kong, Singapore as well as South Korea making it to that list. So that's the long list of markets that are shuttered, at least for the New Year's holiday. But moving on then, let's get you a quick check then going on what oil prices did, because oil prices fell around 3% in 2024. It's been a roller coaster year coming in for oil as well, slipped for a second straight year as the post-pandemic demand recovery stalled. Now, China's economy struggled, and the US and other non-OPEC producers also pumped more crude into a well-supplied global market. So when you take a look at the price moves coming in, then Brent crude futures on the last trading day of the year settled up 65 cents or just about 0.9% there, about $74 a barrel is the kind of level that you're looking at, just shy of that $75 a barrel level in fact. And when you take a look at US WTI as well, 73-cent uptick is what you're seeing there as well, or a 1% uptick. $71 a barrel is the kind of level that you're looking at even when it comes to US WTI. Now, when you take a look at the Brent benchmark, that is the one that settled down around 3%, like I've mentioned, from its final 2023 closing price of $77 thereabout, while WTI was roughly flat when compared with last year's final settlement. A weaker demand outlook in Beijing in particular is something that has forced both the OPEC as well as the IEA to cut their oil demand growth expectations for last year as well as this year. And you do have lower interest rates that generally spur economic growth, feeding into energy demand as well. Something that we've seen play out very well for gold, in fact, because gold prices were poised for an annual surge of over 26%. Now, this is the biggest yearly rise coming in since 2010 as well. And it's been a tale of 3 triggers, largely strong central bank purchases, geopolitical uncertainties fueling that safe haven appeal, and monetary policy easing lastly, that has really powered this record-breaking rally that we've seen come in for gold. But at least on the last trading day, spot gold rose 0.7%, $2,600 per ounce, is a kind of level that you were looking at least when it comes to gold. But with that, tell you what, let's get to check going on the corporate action that you should be keeping an eye on. It's the record date for Surya Roshni bonus issue in the ratio of 1:1. So that's the one to keep an eye on. Effective date as well for ITC Hotels demerger. So that is something that we're marking on our calendars as well for that 1,500 crore payment in cash and cash equivalents when it comes to this particular demerger as well. And moving on, there's revised GMP norms coming in for pharma firms that are also kicking in. So definitely something that we're marking on our calendars. But with that, it's time for a very quick breather on the show. On the other side, we'll get you some more news and updates, so don't go anywhere.